Hello guys and welcome to the video. So today we're going to be taking a look at Mellia, the Wind Dryad. Now what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be looking at her runes, just the way you would build her usage, just everything you're going to need to know about Mellia, so you have a better understanding of this character. But that's all I have to say. So before we go into the build and her runes and everything, one thing we do need to note is her skills. We need to go through her skills so we at least have so you guys at least have an understanding of why we're ruining her the way we're ruining her, and just everything, you know. So her skill 1 attacks an enemy and absorbs an attack bar by 15% with a 50% chance. Her second skill attacks all enemies to decrease their attack speed for 2 turns with a 50% chance and their attack bar by 50%. And her passive inflicts continuous damage on the target for 2 turns with every attack. If you attack an enemy who already has continuous damage, additionally inflicts continuous damage for 2 turns. Now, to pretty much just summarize her skills in very few words, it's pretty simple, her skills, but just again to summarize it, her skill 1 is an attack bar absorb, her skill 2 is an AoE attack bar reduction and speed slow, and her passive just applies 1 dot to any of her attacks. But if the enemy already suffers from continuous damage, she applies 2 dots. So, we already have a decent idea of what she does, or of how to build her. She's obviously not a damage dealer. She's a support, clearly. And also one thing to note is she does have a leader skill for guild content, which we will discuss that a bit later. So, let's take a look at my Mellia, and then what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the stats. So, here's my Mellia here. It's nothing crazy, but I'll explain her stats. So after you look at a monster's skills, you should be able to determine at least 4 stats for most monsters that they would need. So for example, like a crow would be like attack, crit rate, crit damage, and like either HP or speed. Personally, I would go HP, but we'll talk about that in a different video, right? But you would determine 4 stats. Now some monsters are a little bit more simple, and they don't really need too many stats. So for her, she is one of those units. She only needs really 3 stats, but she can use 4, which we'll discuss that 4th one in a second. So the first stat you're gonna have to look out for when building her and ruining her is speed. While speed is necessary, you do not need too much. You just want her to be faster than Tattoo, the Fire Pixie. So a rule for her when you're building her is you want Sath to be faster than her, but you want her to be faster than Tattoo. So she needs to be right in the middle of speed. So it is a little bit complicated to rune these units when you're first starting, when you don't have too many runes, but as you begin to farm more and more, it should be really easy. But I'd say, as you can see, it's like around 70-ish is like the sweet spot, because it's not incredibly difficult to get Sath above like a 170 or about 180. Get him to like around 180, 170. If you can't get him that fast, then just know you're gonna have to rune the Mellias even slower. So the speed is important. It's an important stat, but I can't exactly give you a number because it's dependent on your runes and how much you're farming. If you're not farming that much and you have next to no runes, it's gonna be harder to rune this Mellia with decent speed. Next up is HP. She needs to have enough to survive a hard hit, like the counter from the giant and the giant's floor, or like the endless barrage of attacks that the waves leading up to the giant can deliver. Now, she doesn't need too much. She's not like Sath or Tattoo where they need tons and tons of HP because they're at a disadvantage, but she still needs some. She can't be too squishy, right? So I said a minimum for her health, and by the way, it's bonus health, so the plus number, the green number, she needs a minimum of plus 16k. Once you reach this number of like health, 16,000 health, I'd say you're fine. She'll survive very easily. Yeah, she just needs to be able to survive a couple hits. And last but not least is her accuracy. She's a support unit that lands tons of debuffs. She can slow enemies, reduce their attack bars, and place dots. So accuracy is a must. Now, for her, I said a minimum is 70% accuracy. That's what I say. Me personally, if I have a support unit and they're landing debuffs and that's their main thing, I want 100%. You don't need 100%, but I have 100%. So speed, HP, and accuracy. Now, if you're looking for that fourth stat and you're like, hey, yeah, I want to just perfect my unit. I want to have, I have grindstones. I can switch around stuff in the substats. Me personally, defense. Defense percent is that final substat if you want to put it there. It's not that big of a deal in Giants because she can get defense broken, so it really doesn't matter. But when you bring her into other places like TOA or maybe guild content, if you decide to use her there, or Steel Fortress, it might mean something there because defense breaks aren't so prevalent as you'll see in the Giants floor. But let's move on to her runes now that we know her stats. Now, for early game, I would recommend Swift energy sets, just to help control the speed, because you can get her on a Swift set, get her the slot 2 speed, and then you don't have to worry about speed in the substats. You can worry about making sure she's super tanky, but speed, HP for the early game, and I mean really early, like when you're first starting. Once you start farming some runes and you get to like the mid game, I personally recommend Despair Energy, like how I have on her. Either speed HP or speed HP accuracy. The reason you want Despair is because Despair runes are going to allow you to have a 25% chance to stun the enemy anytime you attack them. And since she has her AoE that already slows and reduces attack bar, adding a stun on top of that will help with not only in Giants when you're clearing the waves, but when you're going through TOA and you're trying to beat TOA for the first time or any of the times, and you're just having to deal with those again, just tons of waves of monsters. And this will even help when you get to the boss stages in TOA. Not that you should be using a dot team because you can't dot the enemy, but crowd control always helps, and this might even help with your success rate and your times in Giants. Her stunning the enemy, I mean, you're talking about not only are we preventing tons of damage coming in because the enemy's stunned, but we're talking about even animations. You got to think about that. If you're thinking about speed, animations, think about how you're preventing those golems or any of those units from doing their attacks. It's just skipping their turn immediately. So your runs are getting faster now. And when you're thinking about it, you have 2 Mellias on your Saf Tattoo team, which we'll talk about again later. So it's both of them on Despair Energy. It's like they're both stunning tons. It's just like your runs become much more safe. Also, another thing to note about that Despair Energy build, you notice I went from speed HP to also including speed HP accuracy. That's because now since you're farming so many runes, you have, the chance that you're getting these runes with HP and accuracy in them. So you can make up the HP and the substats if that's something you need to do. So there are the runes on her. I know these runes don't look, especially this final rune, doesn't look that crazy, but it works. And then here are her artifacts, by the way. We'll talk about artifacts in a second. And then the late game, this is late game, and this is completely optional. You don't really have to go anywhere past the mid game runes. You can keep her on that forever, because she's not a complicated unit, and Despair runes are pretty helpful. But a late game build can always be Violent Energy. Violent runes are getting her extra turns, means that she's placing more dots, meaning faster run times. And I also think focus runes are also something you can consider, rather than always putting energy runes. If you're having trouble placing your dots, or you're just having trouble landing your debuffs, focus runes can help you get that accuracy that you might be missing. And it also might allow you to forget about getting accuracy in the substats. Because if you go speed, HP, accuracy in 2, 4, and 6, and then in the substats, all you do is worry about the HP, and you've put focus runes. Focus runes are like, what, 20%? 20% plus the 64%, you're at 84% accuracy already from just the runes itself. Not talking about her default accuracy, which I would need to... Here, we can actually go into manage. Let's see if we were to remove temporarily. It's going to say 100%, ain't it? Yeah, god dang it, I need to see. Never mind. Anyways, but it's just, you'll have a majority of your accuracy from just the runes alone. But Violent always gets you more turns, but I recommend staying on the Despair. Despair makes the runs just so much more safe. So now that we've gone through her runes, we've gone through her stats, let's talk about her usage. Where are you going to use this unit? Now, she can be used outside of PvE. I mean, she has a guild content lead, which is good, and I could see maybe some use that you would get out of her in some like guild content. I wouldn't use her in arena. I wouldn't use her in any of those places, but like maybe some guild content where you just need a unit that's going to stun, and it's just like in the beginning of the game you're not going to have too many units. So Mellia could be a good when you're starting off, but I just think it's just like outside of PvE content, is just you're not going to use her too much. She has the slows, she has the attack bar reduction, and with the Despair set, she's also stunning, and then dots also help do a little bit of damage. But you got units like Spectra in the beginning where he does the exact same thing, and if not better, because he also decreases attack power. So it's just like, it's not like she's super needed. It's not like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna build one for Giants and then I'm gonna build one for guild content. It's like, you don't need one for guild content. Just build a Spectra. A Spectra does the same thing but better and provides more utility than this girl. But yeah, you're gonna be using her in PvE. She's primarily used for the Saf Tattoo team, which I was talking about earlier, and for just placing tons of dots. You use her in places like Giants, Steel Fortress, Punisher's Crypt, and TOA. Those are the main places you'll take her, but you won't really take her anywhere else, which is why we get to keep her stats so like simple and tiny. But yeah, just like Sath, she's a very simple unit. We're not going to use her in too many places. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire video. Hopefully I've shown you how to ruin this unit. Maybe I've shown you places you could use her. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.